again. This is the fourth episode of the Model 3 Owners Club show, and I'm joined here with my co-host Ken McCord.
How you doing, everybody?
And John Dixon is our first guest.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, John, to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having us. So we're on location, and we have a special treat for everyone today. But what we want to do today is start and talk with John Dixon. John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I guess to start, I've been in the automotive business for 30 plus years. I actually make all my money from ICE dealers to help pay for my Tesla vehicles.
Your addiction.
And that's where we are here today at our office where we do marketing for dealers, as I said. And I've been a Tesla owner for 3.5 years and been a car fanatic before that and would never go back to anything else but a Tesla, basically.
Right.
So.
Okay, cool. So we understand you're the founder of the Southern Ontario Tesla Owners Club.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yep.
Correct.
Very good. And when did you start the club, John?
2013, early 2013. So a little bit of chronological history. I ordered a Model S, I believe it was May of 2012. Been following Tesla like a lot of people for a long time, since the Roadster. Really didn't, decide I wanted a Roadster, too small of a vehicle, but followed Elon Musk and Tesla for a long time. And then saw an article in Motor Trend when they had one of the first beta Model S's actually that they tested, and that's where I realized how phenomenal a vehicle it was, because it was now on the road and they had some reports about it. So put my order in online at that point right away. I think I was number 362 for Canada. Right. But then they did something called a Get Amped tour. I think it was in June or July, where reservation holders could go and drive the vehicle. I think it was at the Hershey Center or something like that. So I went and took one for a drive and was blown away in the contrast from my ICE car, which was a pretty nice car at the time, Acura TL all-wheel drive, and then to drive the Model S, and that's where I realized I wanted it ASAP. So I was able to move to the signature list. They still hadn't fulfilled all their signature orders. So at that point, I immediately, after I left there, converted to a signature Model S and took delivery in December of 2012. And it was torture because there was about 6 months where the U.S., the Americans, were getting their Model S's, and we were following them on all the forums, Tesla Motors Club forum and Tesla Motors forum. And but it was good in many ways because they were able to sort of work out a lot of the bugs, and we got a little bit better quality vehicle by the time I got my Model S in 2012. And then I discovered the forums, of course, as I said at that point, and I realized there was other Canadians on the forums talking about when they were going to get their car, and other people like myself who got their signature. And I just threw it out there that maybe we should have a get together and maybe even start a club. Right. And about half a dozen people responded that they were interested in doing that. So I think we had our first meeting. We decided to call it Southern Ontario because we weren't sure if Ottawa was going to be involved down the road, and sort of Southern Ontario and the GTA. So we had our first meeting in, I'm going to say, March of 2013. Mm-hmm. And there was at least a dozen guys showed up. We did it at North Wentworth Arena because they had chargers there, which we realized we didn't really need anyhow. But and the rest is history. And the core, at least 10, I bet, of those original 12 members still come out on a regular basis. Nice. And the club just evolved over time. It was a long haul in the early days because Tesla really wouldn't support us. They didn't have a policy of any club affiliations or endorsements. They even wouldn't let us put a very tasteful sign up in a at Yorkdale or at Tranmere, Mississauga. They felt that they were showing favoritism, and so the early years, it was me just sort of creeping people on the forums and saying, hey, you're aware that we have this club, and it grew over time to the point where about a year ago, Tesla is now actually endorsing owners clubs. And we were the first one to get a designation from Tesla. They actually allow us.
North America or just Canada?
Well, they're endorsing clubs entirely now. If you have enough members and whatnot, right. We were the first one to get the official use of their logo, which you may want to show at some point in this video. Sure. So that's they actually call it officially Tesla Owners of Southern Ontario. Okay. And there's some privileges we get as being part of the club and whatnot. So, and as we get up to 3,000 plus owners of Model S in Canada, we've had more and more people join. Whereas I think now today there's 230 people on our members list, and many of those come from referrals from other people through Tesla now themselves. Right. And we have probably 70 that are active, and our last meeting there was over 40 people at our physical meetings that we do every 2 months.
Cool.
So yeah.
Oh, cool. So you mentioned that you had a signature Model S. Now, Tesla, obviously, for a lot of our viewers who are new, who have ordered a Model 3, obviously, Tesla is not doing a signature series. Can you tell us concisely what is a signature series for the Model
Okay,
S?
well, the signature for the Model S was, I believe, in the U.S., the first 1,000 could be signatures, and 200 in Canada. I think they ended up selling a little over 1,000 in the U.S. because the whole 200 in Canada were not picked up. So I think some of those reservations may have gone into the U.S. We don't know the exact number. There may have been 1,100. And basically, you got assurances that you would be the first one to get the vehicle. You had to put a much bigger deposit down, like $40,000. Yes. Some people had, I didn't. I was about a year, but some people had it for a number of years. Signature badges on the vehicle. Basically, all the options, most of the options, 95% were standard. And there was one particular color, the signature red, that was unique to the signature only.
Yes.
So there was other colors of signature out there, but a signature red, if you ordered it, which I did, because I really thought it was a nice color and gave some uniqueness.
It is. It's sad to not probably see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the Model X, and they did that in Europe as well. So other parts of the world, they had certain number of signatures allocated for each part of the world, and you could get that unique color and some of the badges, things like that.
Okay,
so.
So what can you tell us about your ownership experience so far? How's it been for you?
It's been great. I mean, I would say, like most Tesla owners, I would never own another vehicle other than a Tesla. Certainly, any other vehicle other than an electric vehicle. We definitely were what people say are early adopters. I'm not going to say my Tesla ownership was without a few little glitches and problems, but nothing major. Tesla as a company from a service point of view have been awesome. They're very responsive to us. I've had rangers come out to my house and to my home when there's problems. You normally get a Tesla loaner when you take your vehicle in for service, so they come out and drop one off and take your vehicle back for service. So I say it's phenomenal. Now that I've met more and more people, especially because of the Owners Club, at Yorkdale and at Lawrence and the service managers and whatnot, I would say that it's a phenomenal experience from all aspects. So, yeah.
Good. Having said that, of course, with the numbers that we're talking about for Model 3, do you think the service could really use some improvement going forward?
Yes, frankly. I mean, our last meeting for the club was, I think, in May, and that's one of the things we talked about. There's already concerns that it's about a month at least to get your vehicle in for service. Unless it's something really serious. So if you had something that would affect the drivability of the car, they'll get you in almost right away. But if you're going in for a tune-up or you have a vibration or when I say a tune-up, like your annual service, it's not your normal tune-up as we know.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of things, it's about a month delay. And although I think some of it's been hopefully alleviated in Mississauga, because you may not be aware of this, Mississauga has moved from Tranmere to, I forgot the new address, I think it's Ambassador Drive, and it's a much bigger facility. Mm-hmm. And I know that both facilities in the east and west have put on an afternoon shift, but there's still a long delay to get your cars in.
The Lawrence location right now is overwhelmed.
Yeah, they are. I mean, with deliveries and everything, they're just up to their eyeballs. We know for sure that Tesla is opening up a new service facility, all-encompassing facility, very similar to Lawrence, on Wycroft Road in Oakville.
Yes.
We don't know the exact time frame, but they have started a little bit of construction there, so I think that would alleviate some things. But I think over time, we don't know how many Model 3s have been ordered in Canada. The speculation is at least 30,000. Mm-hmm. So definitely they're going to need more facilities. And I think they just opened Vancouver and Calgary.
There's talk about a possibility of opening up an Ottawa location.
Yeah,
As well.
Exactly. So, and I don't want to say our mandate, but one of our plans in the club is that we want to lobby as owners for things that we need to think that Tesla need to do and listen to us as Tesla owners. Mm-hmm. So I have a bit of a channel through the club to Tesla corporate, both in the US and in Canada. And I've now been introduced to there's a new regional service manager who's been very responsive, and there's now a new regional national sales manager, if you will, that's responsible for Canada and the west coast of the U.S. So we intend to be corresponding with them on a regular basis. So.
Cool, very good. So John, we understand you have a Model 3 reservation, do you not?
Yes, I do. So my history was I had my Model S signature for about 2 years, And that's probably the longest I've ever held onto a car. My wife couldn't believe I had my car that long. And I said I would never change it unless they came out with an all-wheel drive or a bigger battery. Sure enough, they came out with an all-wheel drive, and I'd actually had a Model X on order for about 6 months or 8 months when the P85D was announced. So I canceled my Model X, went to the P85D, and I had that for about a year and a half. And I now have a Model X, which we're going to talk about here shortly.
Yeah.
But when the Model 3 came out, I put orders in for 2 of those as well. Be very early in the order sequence of that because being an owner and getting my reservation in pretty early. Not sure who they're going to be for, but we put them down for now for my son and or my wife. But absolutely, I'm going to try to see if I can convert her.
Let's talk a little bit about your experience with your Teslas. Obviously, you've used the autopilot feature.
Used autopilot a lot. Yeah, it was great in the fact that when I got my P85D, of course, we didn't realize it was going to have all the features that it had when it first came out. So the first thing when I got the vehicle, I had traffic-aware cruise control for full autopilot functionality, which was amazing. In the early days, it's you're a bit nervous to use it because I mean everybody has cruise control as a rule, but it would actually follow the vehicles in front of you. But in the early days, when it stopped in traffic, if it was more than I think 10 or 20 seconds, it would not take off on its own. You had to put your foot back on the throttle, things like that. And then the autopilot came through a software download, which is, you probably most of you know by now, it's amazing, the new features that you get through software download. So I actually think I put a video out somewhere where the first time I drove autopilot was very freaky. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have, but it was on just a non-divided highway.
Most
and
people when they first
you're going to try it wherever you can. But it's improved over time, and I use it a lot now on the highway. You obviously have to be aware of your surroundings, but I find it most useful on long trips. And the nag feature, as they call it, has actually reduced. So there was a while there that every 3 minutes you had to touch the steering wheel. Now you can probably go 10 or 15 minutes depending on the circumstances, but it's getting better in lanes going around large curves, and it's really, really great in traffic. So stop and go, whether it's stop and go or slow and fast, I find it really convenient.
You mentioned some of those changes to autopilot that you've experienced. Where do you see that evolving given more time?
Again, I think like most Tesla people, I follow most of the forums and I'm aware of what's coming out. And Elon's basically said that, I think in the next release, it'll be able to go off ramp. And that tells me that I believe it's going to have to be tied into your nav. Right now, it's not tied to the nav. So to go off ramp, it'll have to be tied to the nav because right now it will not take an off ramp on the highway, the 407 or 401 and like that. I think again, apparently it's going to be able to recognize stoplights and stop signs, which will be kind of interesting. Again, there's speculation: do we need a second camera? But Mobileye have said it may not need a second camera, so that'll be kind of interesting to see that. But I mean, I think just to stress, do I put my hand on the steering wheel when autopilot's on? I'm going to admit I don't. But my hands are nearby, and I think we have to be careful. There's a lot of speculation out there of what's going on with autopilot. We don't need to revisit all the things that have happened that, people putting stupid videos up there, but it is a beta program, and it's not autopilot. It means it's not totally autonomous, that you can just fall asleep or play chess with your wife or something that we see out there. So, but I do find it definitely a convenient feature.
So now you've had a few years experience.